Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry of Schaeffer's Investment Research with your chart slideshow for Wednesday, December 13th. Today I am back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. First, let me apologize for missing last week's chart slideshow. If you're looking for it, I just didn't get a chance to do one. So what you're seeing here are the charts from 2 weeks ago. Basically, when we looked at these at the end of November, we saw that there had been a slight uptick in volatility as the indices had pulled back. I touched on the idea of a consolidation, the idea that the pullback gave the indices a chance to sort of let the 50-day moving average catch up, which is just a sign that that it's sort of a pause in the uptrend. We talked about the rut pulling back to the top of that little mini consolidation, and my overall takeaway was that the uptrends remained intact. When we switch to this week's charts, we see that that little pullback that we saw in the indices proved to be just that, a small pullback, and we've seen a bounce from those lows. The indices have had varying degrees of bouncing, though. The SPX has perhaps been the most successful at its bounce. We saw the pullback, broke above this peak right here, and now we've seen a short-term consolidation right above that former resistance, which is now short-term support. I should probably stress that that's short-term when you see these uptrends like that. Those do tend to be short-term levels. If they're violated, it's not necessarily all too significant, but many times you will see that the recent peaks do hold as support. If you look back, you can see that this area right here, those peaks sort of contain the pullback. There's a slight dip below it. If I extend that line and make it a little bit straighter, you'll see there's a slight dip below. But the idea is that you've got this recent peak, and it just offers short-term support. As far as the Dow goes, it's been just a little bit less successful. There's that recent peak there, and if I can draw a straight line, which I seem unable to do, you get the idea that basically we have seen the Dow bounce into that former high and has yet to push above it. The comp has been somewhat less successful in its bounce attempt. As you can see that it's been somewhat hesitant to push back into its recent peak, but you're still holding above. You've got this consolidation area right here, and you're still holding above that. So basically, I wouldn't say that's ominous. It's just basically we've seen a consolidation, and the comp just hasn't quite broken out yet. As far as the rut goes, we were talking about that little consolidation there and the potential for that to be support. You can see that the rut did pull back, test that, as we were discussing. We've seen a bounce off that. The small cap index did tick to a new high, right here, but it wasn't a significant breakout, and we've since seen a little bit of a pullback here. Overall, let me clear that off. Basically, you still got this sort of meandering uptrend here. It tends to go in fits and starts, but it's still an uptrend, and you're still holding above the 50-day moving average. And in fact, one of the interesting things is look at the 50-day moving averages. You tend to think of an average as, oscillating, undulating, moving back and forth, and these 50 days have just basically turned into straight lines, sort of mirroring this trend and giving you an idea of how steady the buying has been. As far as overall takeaways, if you've been listening to this series, you can probably guess what it's going to be, and that's the same thing that I've been saying over and over and over again, that the uptrends still remain intact. We haven't seen any major breakdowns. One of the things we might want to keep an eye on, are these recent lows. That, in theory, you wouldn't want to see a breakdown below those. So those are something to kind of keep an eye on. If we do see a breakdown, it could be a sign that maybe we're going to potentially set up for a larger pullback. But the indices are still holding well above those. As I mentioned in my last chart slideshow, pullbacks have been of the 1 and 2 day variety. So at some point, we will see a larger pullback. It's just a question of when. So it's something to just keep in the back of your mind that larger pullbacks do happen. Just in the near term, we haven't seen much in that, and so you just don't want to get complacent about risk. But as it stands right now, we're still seeing the uptrends intact. So as usual, stay tuned to the blog for further updates.